Art Hour, thanks for stopping by. Today we're going to do some glitter inlay techniques, so let's get started. Our first card is a shimmer peony. We're going to use a memory box die called Blooming Peony Stem, as well as an open studio set called Postage Rectangle Layers. There's 4 sizes of layers within the Postage Rectangle Layer set. We're going to use the largest. The first step will be to take the die and cut it out on a piece of white cardstock. I've trimmed a piece of white cardstock just slightly larger than the die, and I'm going to run that through my die cut machine. If you find that some of the edges of the die haven't completely come out of the die cut, here's a trick. Just take the edge of the die and run it gently along the edge to remove those extra pieces. This is a lot quicker than punching them out one by one with a needle tool, and as long as you run it in one direction, they'll pop out easily. Next, you're going to take the blooming peony stem and position it onto the piece of paper. You want the stem to slightly run off the edge of the die cut so that when you cut it out, there's an open space at the bottom. Save this white peony for another project. Now, take a piece of black cardstock and run the peony through the machine to get a black outline. We're going to use that to fill in the space that we just cut out of the white postage rectangle layer. If you lay it on there, you'll see that it fits nicely. We're going to turn it over, and we're going to apply some adhesive to hold it in place. Just take both pieces and lay them down and carefully position them so that the edge of the black meets up with the edge of the white. Now I'm using a tape gun to apply some strips of adhesive along the edge. The adhesive will link the white cardstock to the black cardstock, holding it in place so that they don't shift on you. Now that the stem is secure, we're going to use a product called score tape, which is a double-sided adhesive sheet, to complete the rest of the adhesive for the back of the die. Just trim this sheet slightly larger than the size of the bloom. We're going to be positioning that on the back, and that's what the glitter is going to stick to. The double-sided adhesive sheets have a brown backer sheet that's easy to remove. Just peel it off and press the rest of the sheet onto the back of the die cut. We're going to gently press it out. Don't press too hard or it might stick to your work surface. Then remove the extra sheet and you're ready to go. I'm using a key lime note card here as my base for my card. And I'm going to position it so that it's slightly angled and slightly falling off the edge of the card. I'll trim that later. Carefully press it down and then use your fingers to tap everything into place. You want the double-sided adhesive sheet to stick well to that note card. But if there's any layers that are still sticking up, they'll get rubbed down when you apply the glitter. I'm going to use some yellow glitter here. This is Martha Stewart's yellow barite glitter, but you can use any color or any brand that you want. Pour some glitter into the center of the die cut area. It doesn't take too much. You're going to rub it around, and depending on how much glitter gets onto the paper, you may need to add more, but it's better to just put a little bit on and end up adding more later. Your goal is to spread this glitter all over the open adhesive areas. The adhesive on these sheets is really strong, so as you're rubbing it, the black peony outline won't shift, and you'll be able to just poke and coax all that glitter into the right spot. Just take your time and make sure everything gets filled in evenly. Now you'll probably have a little bit of excess glitter after you're done rubbing it into the adhesive sheet. Just tap it off, and I'm going to use one of those Swiffer wipes to get excess glitter off the card, clear up all those little stray glitter pieces. Now let's add a sentiment to the card. I'm using the Watch the World Bloom clear stamp set from Open Studio, and I'm going to use Wishing You the Happiest of Birthdays. I always recommend practicing before you stamp your actual project. So I've stamped a piece of scratch paper, and then once I feel comfortable, I'm going to go ahead and stamp my actual project. All that's left to do is to trim the right side and the top of the card so that the edges are nice and straight. The double-sided adhesive sheets keep the glitter laying nice and flat, and the way that the glitter catches the light is really eye-catching. For this first project, we focused on just using one shade of glitter. And depending on the color of glitter and the brand of glitter that you choose, you're going to have a different amount of shine and a different effect depending on which one you use. But they're all going to be amazing. This is a simple technique, and it will give you consistent results no matter what kind of glitter you use. Now let's try something a little more complicated. We're going to use the Deer Grove Oval, part of the brand new spring collection from Memory Box. I created this design to work with a number of other Memory Box dies, and I'll share an extra idea with you later. But to start, we're just going to cut this out of a piece of white cardstock. Remove any stray pieces from the die, and then you'll need to use that exact same die to cut out a frame. You can go ahead and save that turquoise deer for another project. You're only going to use the frame for this one. You'll see that the white die cut fits perfectly inside the turquoise frame because they're both made from the same die. Grab an A2 size note card for this next step. I'm going to use 2 shades of distress ink for this background. The first color is Squeezed Lemonade. You're going to apply it in a circular motion onto the plain white note card. The idea is to build up the color slowly, so you're adding a little bit at a time, over and over, until you achieve the desired result. Next, I'm going to use Tumbled Glass distress ink and apply in the exact same manner. This time I'm applying it up above, and I want to slightly overlap that yellow color so that it makes a new shade in the middle. Position your frame over the sponged color to make sure that you have as much of it filled in as you want. Now, I've decided that I want a little bit of darker area at the top, so I'm going to use Distress Ink Evergreen Bough. You'll notice that I'm not making my sponged areas too intense. I want a light effect here. So there's a little bit of streakiness and a little unevenness, but it's okay. The ink tends to blend out a little bit as it sits, and also it's going to be underneath a layer of glitter, and so that'll take care of itself. You're going to peel off another sheet of that score tape and place it right down in the middle of a white note card. Just try to get as centered as possible. You can always do some trimming later on. Lay it down and just rub the areas until it seems secure to the card. Next, pull the backer off the adhesive sheet to reveal the adhesive underneath. If there's a little bit of wrinkling on the adhesive sheet, don't worry. It all gets rubbed out later when you apply the glitter. Now carefully position the frame over the card. Just hold your breath, start at one edge, and pull it across, and then rub the extra areas down. The white die cut gets positioned after that. Just find an edge, and use your fingers to slowly guide everything into place. I'm going to use a clear glitter this time because I want some of those inked areas to show through on the card. Sprinkle your glitter over the bottom portion of the card. Most of that area is going to be just filled in with clear glitter so that the yellow and the blue shows through. I'm using my finger again to guide the glitter all over the adhesive sheet. You need to press as you go firmly so that any wrinkles that might have developed when you applied the adhesive sheet get smoothed down. As you start to extend the glitter up into the darker portion of the opening, slow down the process a bit. You still want to leave a little bit of room for that darker glitter to be set and adhered up into the leaves of that die cut area. Switch to a darker shade of glitter. I've chosen a darker green glitter. This is Martha Stewart's Verdilite, but any green glitter will work, just as long as it goes with the colors that you end up using. Adding a second shade of glitter like this adds a little dimension and makes the whole composition a little more interesting. I'm spreading it around just like I've done all along, and when I pull that darker green glitter down, it doesn't completely adhere to the adhesive sheet because all that clear glitter is in the way and creates a subtle ombre effect. I've decided to finish the card with a sentiment from Poppystamps. This is the die Scribble Hello. I'm just going to use that along with a piece of black cardstock to cut out a simple greeting. Since the Deer Grove Oval die cut takes up most of the card, this is a good solution for putting a greeting onto the front. Just using a little bit of wet glue, add it 1/4 inch apart on the back of the die cut, just little drops of it here and there, and that'll be sufficient to keep this greeting glued down. Just being careful, getting all the little spots that probably will be necessary to keep it in place, and then carefully flip it over and press it down gently with my fingers. I mentioned that I designed the Deer Grove Oval to go with a bunch of other Memory Box dies, and one of my favorites is the Grand Stag Oval Frame. I positioned them so that they're the same size And one deer faces one direction, the other deer faces the other, almost like they're looking at each other. I'm going to use some distress ink here, Wilted Violet, to create a background similar to the card that we just used. Again, you're going to rub it on slowly and gently, slowly building the color till you get to the intensity that you want. I'm going to add a little bit more color this time. I want the color to pop a bit more through the clear glitter, and these two inks together create a really stunning combination. This second color is Distress Ink in Evergreen Bough, and when you overlap the Evergreen Bough and that Wilted Violet, the new shade that you make in between is a deep lagoon color. I've cut another piece of double-sided adhesive sheet, slightly smaller than an A2 card size, so instead of 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, it's just an 1/8 inch less or so on either side. You want to fit inside the card. However, if it overhangs, you can always trim a little bit off. Now, rub it down good, and then peel off the backer sheet to reveal that sponged area underneath. Since this is a similar project to our first card, I'd like to show you an alternative way of getting the frame and the die cut positioned in the right spot. I have the two die cut pieces laying face down, and I'm going to use the tape gun on the back, using the adhesive as a way to link the two areas together. I'm going to do a little bit on each side, just moving around the frame, maybe an inch or so at a time. The tape gun's nice because you can rotate it, sort of swivel it as you go. It doesn't take too much, you just need to get the edges pinned down so that nothing shifts. And you don't need to go all the way to the edge of the frame, because the adhesive sheet that you've put on the card is going to take care of the rest of the gluing that's necessary to keep that die cut in place. So here's the moment of truth. You need to position the frame and the die cut onto the white card. I'm going to use one edge as my guide and let my fingers help guide things into place. I'm going to press on one side and then slowly move it across the surface of the card, and then just even things out. Now I had some leftover glitter from that first card, and it stayed in a nice pattern for me to use again. Most of the clear glitter stayed at the bottom, which is where I want it, and most of the green glitter stayed at the top, which is where I want it on this card as well. If you plan out your projects and you tap off your glitter in pattern like this, then it'll help you save and be conservative with your glitter. Then all you'll have to do is add a little bit more each time to fill in the rest of the areas that don't have enough glitter. Just going to rub things into the adhesive sheet. This time I want the purple ink to show through down below, so that's why I use the clear glitter down below. And I'm going to use that darker green glitter at the top. When you put that green glitter over the green ink, it adds a little bit more dimension and it's not quite as flat. It's a good way to make your glitter a little bit more vivid. Tap off any excess glitter. You might need to use that Swiffer sheet again to get any stray pieces of glitter off the project. And then you'll be ready to put that Deer Grove oval die cut on top of that layer. Trim several narrow strips of foam mounting tape so that you can position those on the back of this die cut. You'll need enough of this foam mounting tape to go along the edge of the die cut. It doesn't have to be exactly end to end, but you want to cover most of it. And you won't need any for that leaf canopy portion. That can just hang free, but you do want to get these edges pretty well covered. The foam mounting tape is going to give this piece a little bit of a lift off the card. This would be a fun project to adapt to a shaker card. You could use the same setup with foam mounting tape around the edges, and then add some plastic window transparency at the top and put some sequins in between to complete the shaker card. And there you have it, a variation on our two-color glitter ombre technique. Our last card takes it one step further, adding yet another layer of glitter. The technique's the same, but once you start using multiple colors of glitter, the effects are amazing. We're going to use two different open studio sets. One is the Morning Garden Butterflies, and the second is the butterfly ensemble. I designed these sets so that they'd work with each other. There's solid butterfly backgrounds, and then the outlines that go with them. We're going to pick out a couple different sizes, and we're going to use those as the main focal pieces on our card. As you've seen by now, it's important to use strong adhesive when working with glitter, so I'm going to continue to use these score pal sheets. I'm going to place a smaller piece of this adhesive sheet onto a green colored cardstock. As you've seen in the second project, having color underneath the glitter makes the glitter a little bit more intense. I'm going to run this through the die cut machine so that there's a layer of cardstock, a layer of adhesive, and they're going to be bonded to each other and cut right to the edge. If the die cut has a little trouble coming out of the die, just use a needle tool to help guide things out, just poking through the little pierce holes and pulling them out onto your work surface. Remove the backer tape and put these pieces aside for the next step. You're going to take the matching outline dies, the ones that are perfectly sized to go with the solid butterflies, and put them on a piece of white cardstock and run them through the die cut machine. Now I've found that the easiest way to position these outlines on top of the solid pieces is to hold them both together at once and start in the middle. So I'm going to keep my fingers in between the top die cut and the bottom die cut, and I'm going to press in the middle and then slowly use my fingers to guide the edges out so that they meet up at the ends of the butterfly. Once you've done this a few times, I promise you'll get good at it. For the most part, I usually start at one side or the other, but for some reason, having a symmetrical die cut like this, it's easier to position in the middle and then slowly guide around the edge. Try not to rush it, and sometimes I hold my breath, but things will turn out great. Okay, now that everything is prepped and the adhesive's in the right spot, we're ready for the fun part. I'm going to take some dark red glitter. This color is garnet, but any dark red will do. And I'm going to sprinkle just a little bit in the upper corners of the butterfly shape. I don't want to do too much, just a little bit, just to add a little bit of accent. And then I'm going to start to spread it down towards the center of the butterfly. Next, I'm going to take a copper color of glitter. Anything close to red or any kind of complementary colors next to each other will blend smoothly. So I'm going to add a little bit next to the red at the top and a little bit at the bottom. And while I use one finger to hold the die cut in place, I'm going to use the other finger to blend the copper color up into the red and also a little bit further towards the center. Don't be worried about getting things too symmetric. There will be slight variations, just like in nature, as you apply the glitter. To finish it off, I'm going to use some more gold glitter. This is the yellow barite again. And I'm going to fill in the rest of the areas in the middle. My fingers are going to spread the glitter out, making sure that it fills in any open gaps, and rub it onto that copper area as well, so that things blend together. You'll notice that I use solid colors of glitter for the large butterfly, and I'm going to switch back to some clear glitter for the smaller butterfly. I'm going to do the opposite way this time. I'm going to add glitter in the middle, and I'm going to end up going towards the edges. I just want to apply the clear glitter in the center and leave a little bit of that adhesive still at the edge exposed so that I can add some more glitter. This is Golden Beryl, sort of a green gold glitter. And it's going to get more intense because it has that green cardstock behind it. This is a pretty small die cut, so adding the glitter and decorating goes pretty quickly, but I am managing to fill in yet another color, a nice blue color called lapis lazuli, to finish out the rest of the butterfly. Wouldn't it be fun to challenge yourself and do 4, 5, or 6 colors of glitter in this tiny little space? The more shades that you add to this glitter inlay technique, the more prismatic the effect is. And I love the effect of the matte white outline in between the glittered areas. So it's time to prep the final card. I'm using the stitched cloud line die from Poppystamps. It comes with 3 different cloud lines, but I think for this project, we're just going to use 2 of them. You'll position the 2 cloud lines so that they go off the edge of the card and leave a little bit of space in between. When I designed this die, I decided to add a little bit of stitching to one side of the cutting line, and I think it adds a little bit of extra interest there. So you've split the white cardstock into 3 separate pieces, and now it's time to add a little bit of sponging to the bottom of each. This is going to create the idea that there's a little bit of perspective on your card. We're going to use one of my favorite distress inks, Tumbled Glass. Just sponge right along the bottom of each of those panels. You don't want to put a lot on, and it's hard to see here if there's even any going onto the paper, but trust me, it is going on, and it'll show up once you assemble that final card. The white next to the blue will stand out a lot more in the final project. Gently swirl this on. You don't want any streaks, so take your time and just do soft circles all along the edge. I'll apply some adhesive with my trusty tape gun to the front of a white A2 size note card. I'm just adding strips, making sure that the edges get plenty of adhesive on them so that it's prepped nice and ready for these panels to adhere. The easiest way that I've found to assemble this card is to start at the top. So I'll take the top third of my die cut piece and I'm going to position it right up to the upper left corner and then follow it up with my middle piece, hooking it right into the spot that it belongs to. And just like a puzzle, I'll finish with a third piece at the bottom. For the sentiment on the card, I've decided to use a clear stamp set from Poppystamps called Ornamental Butterflies. There are a bunch of different greetings on the stamp set, but I've chosen Sending Best Wishes. And as always, I recommend practicing stamping on a scratched piece of paper first before you go over and stamp your finished project. Now when I took a look again at the card, I decided it looked a little bit plain. So I'm adding a little bit of glue right next to the sentiment so that I can add a little embellishment. I've cut out a tiny heart with red cardstock, and I think that draws attention to the sentiment, makes it a little bit more colorful. Now all that's left is to position the 2 glitter butterflies onto the card. I could use some craft glue, but I decided to use foam mounting tape. That way there wasn't any drying time involved and I could get the project done right away. I'm positioning the mounting tape right in the middle of each of the butterfly die cuts, short enough so that it won't show, and I'm just going to bend the wings slightly so that once it's glued down, those wings pop up just a little bit. I'll do the same on the small one and put it slightly lower on the card. And all that's left is to write your greeting inside and send these beautiful butterflies on their way. Thank you so much for watching the video. I hope I've inspired you to try your own glitter inlay techniques.